So what I've told you today is a story. It's a story about a giant grant of land and attempts made by the Lord's proprietors and the first map makers to populate that space with different shapes and forms of what Carolina would be. At first, there was ambition, confidence, aggression, trying to make Carolina as big as it could possibly be. But the Yamasee War really ended that and led to a more sober assessment of how the English could claim land in America. By the 1750s, at the end of this tour of South Carolina, this plantation countryside was surging. There was new confidence. And William de Brahm, the celebrated mapmaker and surveyor general of the South Carolina colony, drew this map to show how dramatically the plantation countryside was expanding. One of the reasons that South Carolina was expanding was because not only was rice a profitable commodity that was being shipped all over Europe, but indigo was now a new addition to the repertoire of South Carolina exports. And in his cartouche, he showed slaves processing and packing indigo dye for export to England. Another policy that the South Carolina government had was to build strategic townships along the frontier of the colony. And although Fort King George was no longer as important as it once had been when John Barnwell built it, Fort Augusta now became the linchpin of South Carolina's and Georgia's security in relations with the Creek Indians. Another thing we can see is a remnant of what the Indians of Carolina used to be. Here in Fredericksburg Township and Parish, we can see the new frontier of Carolina, and if the map will come into focus, you'll see a notation here that says the Catawba Nation right here, pushed to the very edge of this much larger map. But I think what this map is known best for is that it showed how individual planters, colonists, and landowners were the driving force behind this expansion. Because William de Brahm was the Surveyor General of South Carolina, he and his assistants laid out the plats by which people claimed their grants of land. And although he couldn't do this for all of the Low Country, he, in Prince William Parish and a few other places, he actually showed the footprint of those properties on the landscape itself. And at the bottom of the map, there's a table with all the names and acreages of all the people who owned the land. This was William de Brahm's story of what made Carolina a robust, expansive society. It was plantation enterprise let loose on the landscape and recorded by this means. So if we look at William de Brahm's map of the region and we compare it to the Carolina Charter, we can see that even this expansive growth only fills a very small place of this landscape. But if we look at it in comparison to the boundaries we started with, that we know, we can see how it really is the source from which modern South Carolina takes its form. Thanks very much.